The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Cole.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation on investing, retirement, and everything in between.
At Full Swing Financial Planning, we're here to empower you to take control of your plan, your way, for your financial future.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Cole and Cole. I am Bailey. I'm with Cole Jaski, and I'm over the weather in Iowa. It's rainy. It's starting to get cold.
Good morning. Yeah, last 2 days. It's still morning, isn't it? Yeah. Last 2 days, rainy. Feels like we're in Seattle. You know, the Seattle rain.
Yeah. It's a busy time of the year. We got Thanksgiving coming up, Christmas. We have our client appreciation event. It's just
that's coming up quick.
This time of the year is crazy.
I was looking at the schedule. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a couple Thursdays from now. But this time of year is kind of it's kind of tough. It's grindy. It's our grind time. I feel like you go to work and it's dark almost, or drop kids off at school.
I do feel like we work later too. All of a sudden I'll look and me and Angie and Cole are still. I'm like, oh, it's time for us to get out of here, guys.
But it's like 4:30.
It's easy.
And you're like, is it 8 o'clock at night?
Yes.
No. So what's that date where it rolls over? Where it's the days start getting, or it's like December 20th or something.
I don't know. Peter's chiming in.
Is that the, what is it? That's not the equinox. That's the solstice.
I don't know.
Winter solstice.
Wow, we're off the rails.
There's a date where it's like you're on the better end. You're starting to trend towards spring. So it's somewhere in December.
Yeah, like December 20th.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Something around there.
So we just got to get to that date, and then it's like the end's in sight. So.
If you know the Midwest, you get all 4 seasons, and you get a little bit of everything. So busy time of year, basketball season,
kids basketball.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So
Iowa State women both in the top 25. Love that for them.
The men's programs both decent too.
Yeah.
I think Iowa's got some momentum. Iowa State's ranked like 16th or something. So
football, I'm ready for it to be over. That's how I feel.
Football to be over?
Yeah,
that's a depressing time for me in our house because I don't really watch anything else on TV
That's
other than
Luke.
football.
That's Luke.
I really don't watch much. I don't watch any basketball, anything. I watch football and a little bit of Netflix every once in a while with Chelsea, and I can find
a good show.
A common ground. But we've been on different wavelengths for a year. So
me and Luke never watch the same. We are off the rails. Let's get back on.
We are. We're wild today.
So even though it's a busy time, right? It's November. Everyone wants to be organized. We want you to be going in. We've had a couple episodes trying to get organized for year 2026. But today we're going to talk about a super important vehicle in your retirement planning. Most people have access to this. And we are going to talk about 401ks. Everything you need to know about your 401k if you have one, what it is. And we don't want you to be overwhelmed. But statistically, it was 8 out of Fidelity study of millionaires. 8 out of 10 millionaires are made by utilizing their company's 401k. That's a pretty big stat.
That's wild. Probably the other 2 are probably like small business owners or something. Right?
Absolutely. So, but it's a vehicle if you have the ability to use
most common vehicle.
Yes. Yep. We want you to understand it. We want to go over the basics, what to ask, what to do. And this is a great time. Again, I know it's an overwhelming time, but year end, like in your mind, January, I'm doing this with my 401k.
And there's a lot of people, at work, it's open enrollment period where they're making healthcare decisions. You're doing your 401k deferrals, you're changing beneficiaries, updating things. So very relevant topic for the time of year. And we want to make sure we go into depth. And there are some misconceptions and too that, about 401ks that we run across on a daily basis that we want to make sure and talk about.
We manage quite a few 401ks for companies ourselves. And our biggest goal when we talk to those participants is help them use them, 1, correctly, and 2, not leave money on the table, but really understand what they're doing. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's dive in. Cole, what is a 401k? What are the basics?
Yeah, generally, in general terms, it's or the formal term is a defined contribution plan. You're making contributions to a retirement plan, but generally sponsored by an employer, right? Your employer that you work for that provides your wage, they offer a retirement plan, and generally, those retirement contributions are done through the payroll process. But it is a vehicle for you to save, for your retirement.
Retirement dollars going in. And so basically we have one at our company, right? So it's Full Swing Financial Planning. I'm using this example. That's easy to do. Our employees every paycheck, a certain amount can come out of their paycheck. They never have to see it, and it goes into their 401k, and they can select pre-tax or Roth, and then they get to select the investment selections. Obviously, they get a little exclusive help with us being in there, but it's basically a way to save money, I would say, without having it to come to you.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest advantage.
Most of it's very automated, right?
Yes.
You do have some say. You have to set it up, go through the formal process of selecting certain options, but there are some standardizations, that in IRS guidelines that we'll talk about later of rules you still have to stay within. But most plans, have a few common features and options for you to go through and select. And in general terms, most companies do offer a match, and that's where we talk about not leaving money on the table. Just making sure, and we really want to make sure you're educated about your plan.
So the most common mistakes we see is number one, not enrolling, or I thought I enrolled. How many times have you heard that? I thought I enrolled.
I thought it was done automatically.
Yeah. So number one, you have to physically enroll. You should know who the advisor is on the plan. They will sit with you and they will guide you and they will help you through the enrollment process, or they should be, or if not, reach out to your employer and say, hey, I want to enroll. Where do I go? How do I do it? And most employers are giving you that information.
Yep. And generally, if you don't know, who to ask, it's either, a lot of times it's whoever the payroll contact is.
Yes.
Obviously,
I don't know who to ask at work.
Yeah, if you're a large company, you probably know, hey, there's a benefits manager or someone that I can go through, or an HR director. But say you're, a smaller, medium-sized employer, and maybe the HR person is also the business owner and also the accountant, right? Sometimes that's the case in our area where a lot of times it's that payroll contact will be the person to talk to, or they can point you in the right direction, whether it's speaking to the advisor or talking to whoever the 401k provider is directly.
Another, I would say, big mistake before we get into the basics is missing the employer match. So I was telling Cole this before we started recording, and this is IRS reports say only 14% of workers contribute enough to max out their plan. I do feel like when we talk to people who are enrolling, they're like, I want to max it out, right? Or what do I need to max it out to get the match? Those are two different things. So missing out on the employer match, so putting enough in to get the employer match, or two, understanding maxing out. So you can dive into that because you're not in your head.
I think this is a misconception. People think, I'm maxing out my plan, and they're in their brain. They're like, I'm getting the full match from the employer.
So if I put 3, they're going to put 3.
That's not the same as maxing out the plan, because there's always 2 contribution types that go into a plan. It's if you have a plan that has a match. There are plans out there that do not have matches, so it's just you're just would be
a vehicle to put away money.
Your contribution. But there's always the employee contribution and then the employer match. Or some plans have it as well. They might have a third bucket, which should be a profit share or a match on what's called a discretionary match. So you might be a business that has a profit share. You could have 3 types technically, but a lot of people think, I'm maxing my plan, meaning I'm just doing the amount that gets the max match. That's not the same as the employee, maxing. Because right now, if you're maxing your 401k as from your contribution type, that would be you putting $23,000 if you're below 50, putting $23,500 a year into your 401k. That would be maxing
means out of
yours.
if you make $100,000, $23,500 of your salary is going into that 401k vehicle.
Yep. So $23,500 is and this is for 2025, and we're going to talk about there's some updates for next year. That's the max that you can do. And then whatever your employer does a 3% match, and that equals $7,000. Great. There's $30,500 total going in. And again, when you get on the website or wherever you get your statement, you'll see 2 different contribution types: employee, employer.
Yep. Another mistake, and then we'll get into it, is I want people to understand, because I have seen this multiple times where they enroll in their 401k. Let's say they're putting 6% away. They're getting the match, whatever it is, but they don't know it's allocated in. You are responsible for what is invested in. Your employer, that I think most people think their employer's in there managing what it's actually invested in. They are not doing that. You must select that. Another
great point to bring up. There's the employer's responsibility on the when administrating the 401k is really to provide. There's certain documentation annually that, depending on your plan type, that has to be provided to you. But they're also responsible for selecting the investment lineup that is available to you in your plan, not what you specifically invest in. So that's very important, as you still have to make that choice and decision. Now, there are new rules where plans are now required to have what's called a qualified default investment option. And that basically what that says is if you don't make a selection, the plan is going to automatically allocate based on your age. It's going to take your age,
which is better than.
Yeah, we used to see times where there'd be a cash or a money market option,
or like a 21-year-old's like invested in all bonds.
Yeah, and it just defaulted to there, and they didn't look at it for 15 years. Like, I thought I was invested the whole time, and it wasn't. It was sitting in the insured deposit account or whatever within the plan, making 1% interest when the market did 15% over the last 10 years or whatever it might be. And
they missed out on all those gains. So basically where we're at with this is if you have a 401k, number one, make sure you're enrolled. And if there is a match, if you're able to do that amount, get that match. And then two, make sure it's allocated correctly. But let's go a little deeper and break down some other stuff. So break down Roth pre-tax. I get that question a lot when I'm enrolling people. Should I do pre-tax? Should I do Roth? And these are options. If you have Roth option, most do now inside your 401k.
It really just comes down to how it's taxed, right? So let's use, and again, I do use these examples a lot because that's probably the main question we get is, hey, what should I do, Roth or pre-tax? And really it's on the front end is, are you getting a tax deduction now or you're not getting a tax deduction? So let's use $1,000 example for someone that makes $1,000 in wage, gross wage weekly. So let's start with the pre-tax example. This is what most people default to, or most plans will just default to a pre-tax. And say you're doing 5% deferral, pre-tax deferral, or traditional, you might hear traditional. So if you make $1,000 and you got a 5% deferral, $50 is going into the 401k plan for your contribution. Now you're only going to pay taxes on $950 because that is a deductible contribution to you. So if you do that your whole career for 30 years, that $50 turns into $1 million. You retire and you start taking $30,000 out a year, whatever. You then have to claim that as income. You claim $30,000, whatever you pull out of the account at that time. It grows tax deferred, but it's taxed when you start taking it out. Now let's use the counter to that, which would be the Roth. Same example. You make $1,000, you put in 5%, $50 goes in Roth or after tax. You still pay taxes on all $1,000 that you made. Now that $50 in there, same example, grows to $1 million. You start taking $25,000 or $30,000 out. That is all tax-free at that point because you paid the taxes on the front end. So are you paying the taxes now or paying them later? That's really what it comes down to.
I always hear Cole this. If you talk to Bailey, she'll tell you to do Roth when we're doing 401k enrollees, but really it is situational. Some people need the tax deduction now. Some people are like, I'd rather eat it now. I want the tax-free. I personally, when it comes to me, I like Roth. I think there's more flexibility in retirement. There's no RMDs, inheritance, all these things. That's where my brain goes. It's a control factor.
The younger you are, I think you should default more to Roth. I would say if you just look at all factors, most likely tax rates are probably not going lower, most likely going higher.
You don't think so? The government's
but also as you're younger and say pre-kids, pre-marriage, those things, it's easier to absorb the tax piece then versus later when you're like, man, I really need to net more, make sure I'm getting all my dollars. And you might start to look as your income goes up, you start to kind of weigh, hey, what's the cost benefit analysis of doing pre-tax versus Roth. But if you are used to doing Roth from an early stage,
you kind of stay
used to it. You absorb it, and it definitely makes it easier. And we always, as individual planners, when we see someone that has a larger Roth bucket later in life,
you get a little giddy.
It's awesome because it gives you, as a planner, someone that's helping, hey, maybe we're retiring pre-Medicare or pre-Medicare, pre-Social Security. Gives you that ability where we don't really have to worry about the tax implications of big distributions, or maybe it's paying off some debt or whatever it might be, but it gives you a lot more flexibility.
A little power.
Later in your retirement
spending
plan.
Power. So most importantly, because again, I don't want to overwhelm our listeners, pre-tax Roth, just get enrolled. And then make sure you're allocated the way you want to be allocated. There's resources to help you figure that out. And yes, do we think pre-tax is better for some? But just doing it, I think most importantly, you cannot go wrong.
Worst mistake you can make is not doing anything.
Yes, because you're like, I don't understand which one to use.
Especially if your employer has a match. If you're not doing your 401k and your employer has a match, it's really, you're really punishing yourself.
And I want to say this because I want to go this, how to talk to your employer about this. Because if you don't understand your match, it's okay. I think people have this weird thing like talking to, not all, it depends on
the shame about money, right?
Yes. Always. But ask ask your employer, like, I don't understand the match. What is the match? What do I need to put in?
Give me some napkin math. Right? That's
what do I need to get the full? Because if you put so much in, you can get another percentage. Like, you need to know your company's 401k. It's your vehicle, and I'm telling you, every company has different requirement, different matches, different eligibility periods. Just know, go to your HR and be like, what's the match? When am I fully vested? I'm going to have you talk about what fully vested is. Do we offer Roth? Who is the financial advisor on our plan? And dang it, what is the website? Like, do not be afraid to ask these questions. Luckily, I am very process driven. So is Cole. So if we're managing 401ks, we have these nice little one pagers that have all this information on it, but a lot of them do not for these people. So it is your responsibility to utilize this 401k, because this is your retirement planning. So you need to not be afraid and go up to that HR, the payroll person, and ask those questions. And go into fully vested, please, Cole Jaski.
Okay, so what Bailey was saying, talking about vested. So depending on let's use a profit sharing plan, because there are a lot of plans out there that have a profit share. So that's a difference between just a standard match. So say you're a business and your employer says, hey, we match 100% up to 3%. Quite common out there, but we also do a profit share, but it's based on how the business does every year. So they might only do that once a year, and it might be, and it's a percentage that they declare, and it's across the board. It's everyone that's meets the eligibility to be in the profit share. A lot of times that there will be two different vesting schedules on those dollars, but profit share, most common, I would say, is what's called, a 5-year cliff. And let's use that for example. So if you're year one and they give you $1,000 in profit sharing, there's some vesting schedule in there, but most common is like a year one, you're 20%, 40, 60, 80, and then at year 5, you're 100% vested. And what that means is if you have $10,000 in your profit sharing bucket, not your contribution bucket, the profit sharing bucket.
What they're putting in.
Yes, what they're putting in, and you leave year 3 and you're 60% vested, only $6,000 of that money is yours if you leave the employer. The other 4 goes back to a profit sharing pool that gets divided on, or there's some different options that the employer can select.
It gives the employer control if they're going to put this money in. They're basically saying, hey, you need to work this long to have full, and that's very common in that.
And once you've reached that fully vested,
you hear
now
that all the time.
Everything beyond that period that's put in that bucket and the old dollars, it's 100% yours if you leave.
Yeah. So we're rolling. We figure out when we're fully vested. We've talked to our person. We know how to, Cole, how do you guide people on selecting allocation? Because I do think it's something. Target date funds we talk about all the time. It's too easy not to pick one that works for you, that does well inside these things. Every plan has, but I want to say this before I ask you this. I love that coworkers bond, and I'm not saying you can't ask them what they're doing. I think that's very common. But just because you're 60-year-old coworker and you're 40, please don't do what they're, different situations and different market comfortability. So allocating inside your 401k.
Yeah, and this is going to be very subject to your plan, right? So because what's offered in our plan at Full Swing is going to be different than Peter's plan or whatever someone else has. But almost all plans have the makeup just with how the rules work when you set them up. They have the target date allocation funds, which that's if you look at your plan lineup, it'd be a 2060 fund.
Which means
yes, and what that means is that money is being allocated. There's a fund manager that is managing those assets as if you were going to retire in year 2060. So it's going to do what a professional allocation and recommendation would be like this. So it automatically makes the adjustments as you get closer to that date of 2060. It's going to get a little bit more conservative.
So it's probably in all stocks now, and as we near 2060,
it might go from 90% stocks, 10% bonds right now, and then when it gets to that target date, it might look like 40% stocks, 60% bonds, or some variation where it's a lot more conservative now. That is one option, and that's on almost every plan. Target date allocations are available, so you could pick whatever one. They're always updating them or adding new ones as time goes on for the plan. There's going to be a 2070, 2075 fund, different things there. But as the alternative to that would be, there's generally some individual individual fund options where instead of having that money manager, someone change that allocation automatically for you, where they're doing, we're doing 20% large cap U.S. growth. We're doing, small cap, mid cap, international bonds.
There's always an index fund in there.
You can go and pick your own individual funds. Like, well, I want to be super aggressive. and I want to have all large cap growth, U.S. growth fund, and you put all 100%, and you have the right to do that. You just need to know, hey, are you comfortable with the swings, the volatility?
Yeah.
But obviously, you can go through, and some plans don't have as much available in the individual fund. So, there are times where we don't feel like you can get the diversification, but in most, I would say most experiences, you can do it either way. You just need to, make sure you know what you're doing and be comfortable with, with either the risk return that you're taking in the model.
Number one, we just want you contributing, right?
Yep.
Number two, when you really feel comfortable and you're doing it, yes, we would like you to look at the allocation because it is a powerful difference. I would say also, we really want to empower it for you to take control of your 401k. Is like when you click on those funds, you see those lineups, there's always a hyperlink. You can click the fund. It will give you all the information about it, the cost of it, how well it's performed. I mean, the information is available inside the 401k login. So again, get physically logged in. We have people that really we had someone that wanted to paper enroll the other day. I'm like, everywhere's going technology to enroll in 401k. So
I would say don't, a recommendation just for people that try to overcomplicate it at times. It's okay to use the target date funds.
Yes.
We don't want to talk ourselves out of a
just
job.
Contribute it.
Yeah, out of a job. But if you look at, a 2065 or 2060 fund, you go and look and you're like, man, the last 10 years, the returns on there versus me trying to individually select a bunch of funds. I mean, a lot of times I don't have to do anything other than contribute to that fund. And it does a pretty good job for the most part. So
I did have a friend younger. They became a client, they were enrolling. And I said, oh, you're really aggressive inside your 401k. You must be comfortable with the swings. And he was like, I didn't even know what I was in. Like, I didn't even know I was aggressive. I'm like, it's paid off. I mean, he was younger, but that's what I'm saying. It's just the awareness of like, it's your money. Just know what it's doing and know what you're selecting.
I would say if you're younger,
yes,
right, make sure you're not too conservative, right? That's the error. I'd rather see you be more aggressive than too conservative.
I'm always like pedal to the metal.
Time's on your side there. But that does happen where you set it up and all of a sudden they're like, well, I selected some fund and it was like 40% of it's in bonds and you're 20 years old. And you're like, well, I'm not retiring for 60 years and I'm buying bonds. Like you shouldn't be buying bonds if
just know what you're buying and why you're buying it.
Yes. So versus the other side being over aggressive. If you're older, yes, I probably don't, you need to be very aware of being too aggressive, but ultimately I'd be more concerned with the younger person being too conservative.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at Digital Agent at spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's Digital Agent at spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
Let's do a little dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Very nice, Peter. Da-na-na. Breaking news.
You did it.
Effective tax year 2026 . So we're talking about 401k plans.
Nerds. We're such nerds.
We're talking about 401k plans. IRS just released, I think on the 12th or 11th of November, which is a few days ago.
Your wife's birthday.
Yeah. I don't know if it might be the 12th. It might have been the 12th, the day after, but yeah. Hey, shout out
Chelsea.
Yeah. And
shout out Colby.
Yeah. Happy birthday, November 11th, both of them. So
Vets Day. Shout out.
Yep.
Respect.
So updated contribution limits for the 2026 tax year. So employees, since we're talking about 401ks, so let's talk about defined contribution plans first, which would be 401ks, 403bs, 457s, TSPs. Those are all kind of fall under that.
I love how they throw out the numbers 401k, 403b,
yeah, they're all got these different acronyms and things out there. But yeah, the contribution limits for someone that is below 50 is going to $24,500, up from 23, which we're talking about right now. Currently, it's $23,500. So up $1,000 for next year. The 50 plus catch up increase. So this is if you're above age 50. Right now, you can do 23,500 plus an additional 7,500. So if you're in that age gap between 50 and 60
You
and
get
above,
a little, they're saying, hey, if you didn't save enough, we'll let you save a little more now.
Yep, we get that catch-up contribution. That's increasing to 8,000. So if you're, let's use a age 51-year-old, right now for 2026, you'd be able to contribute $32,500 pre-tax or Roth, whatever you want, or a mixture of the two. And a new provision from the Secure Act 2.0, this was in play this year, but ages 60 to 63, you have a special catch-up contribution of $11,250, which is not changing for 2026, but that is new. So if you're someone that falls in that age 60 to 63 range, you do have an additional catch-up contribution. That's new. Most people don't know that. But it's unique to those ages. So if you're 65,
get it, Dad. Go add some money in there.
But it is unique. Once you hit 64, you're back to the normal catch-up contribution. It's only age 60 to 63.
I wonder why. What's the thought?
Kind of weird. You think it would just be above 65? Yeah. So I don't know, why that is or what. But yeah. So that's if you're within those ages and you're someone that's traditionally maxed out your employer-sponsored plan. Know that you have a little extra juice you can put in there. Let's shift to IRAs.
Juice.
I didn't know which way to put it, whatever.
Juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that analogy, but
basically what they're saying, and they didn't do this last year, they're saying, hey, cost of living's going up. Obviously, you need to save more futuristically. Let's let you put more into these vehicles.
Generally, like anywhere I've seen it, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 annually. But yeah, we saw a pause, but now we're doing probably maybe a little bit more than what they have done. Yep. So let's go to individual IRAs. Just while we're doing this, the contribution limits are going up $500 for traditional or Roth IRAs. So up from, again, that below age 50, it's going from $7,000 to $7,500 for 2026. If you're above age 50, the catch-up contribution's $1,000 right now. It's going up to $1,100. So if you're age 50, you could do $8,100 in 2026 into your Roth IRA or pre-tax traditional IRA.
I think this is really important. I hear people be like, oh, my 401k or, oh, my IRA. I'm like, no, that's your 401k. This is your IRA. So I really I know it sounds so simple, but if you don't use these terminologies all the day, but you can max out your 401k if you're, let's say, in two things. There's a Roth limit, right? If you make so much, you can't do Roth, right? But you can do Roth inside your 401k regardless. If you're a high earner and they offer Roth 401k, put it away in there, but you can't do Roth IRA. I feel like people...
One's on is a group sponsor plan. Yes. One's on an individual level. So what Bailey's referring to, for an individual Roth IRA, there's a modified, it's based on your modified adjusted gross income. If you make a certain amount of dollars, you can't contribute on an individual basis. But if you have a 401k, that's irrelevant. You can contribute to the Roth portion.
I had someone say, oh, my advisor told me I couldn't do Roth 401k. I'm like, yes, you can. So you need to be doing it. Also, I want to add this too. You can do both.
Yep.
So I'm not saying maybe you're doing your 401k, you're getting your match. Maybe they don't have Roth in there.
Generally, these are extremely good savers, right? Say you're someone, because you'd have to be below that individual Roth IRA contribution limit. So you'd be maxing out. So let's use the example right now. You'd be maxing out. Let's use Bailey. She's single. I know you're not
Sorry,
single.
Luke.
Yeah. Making $120,000 a year. And you're doing $23,500 in your 401k. Plus you're like, hey, Cole, I want to put another $7,000 in my Roth IRA. She does qualify to be able to do that.
Yeah. Or let's say you can't do Roth IRA, but you're doing Roth in your 401k, but you still want to stuff a little money after your match. You'd rather pick what you're invested in. You could do your Roth 401k, and then you could do an IRA outside and do that new limit. And there's ways to do it. My point is you got to know there are different rules for different ones. So I just want to put that out there. So I get this question a lot, Cole, and you do too, is, well, how much should I put in my 401k? And I think this is a good statistic. The average 401k millionaire, meaning they have $1 million in their 401k, their savings rate is 17% plus of their income. So the more, obviously, that's Fidelity, the more you put in, the better, Yep.
I think
consistency.
An industry just like number that gets thrown around is 15% of your income, right? You need to be saving. That's a good baseline. Now, obviously, if you're someone that has aspirations, goals to retire early, and you're only saving 8% of your income, you're probably not going to get there unless you're going to cut your spending basically in a third or half from what you're spending now. So But if you're someone that's say, hey, I want to retire, I've got it very defined, and you're doing 17, 18, 19, 20% of income, you're probably more likely to make that.
Good.
Yes. And that's where obviously the more you can save, the better. That's always the default, but
the earlier the better too. You don't need to be putting 17, 18% away since your first job at 21, you've been doing 5. And then we always really advocate for people to do the auto increase. Like
the escalation.
Yes. So basically
we're on the same page because I was thinking about talking about that.
But anyways, because here it is, we're off the rails.
Oh my gosh. Too much caffeine in this room, I think.
Basically,
we're too giddy for this topic. So I don't know. There's
we're the only ones this excited
what is
about.
wrong with these people?
We love 401ks. But basically, what we're saying is, okay, Cole makes $60,000. He's putting away 6% as a 25-year-old, right? Well, you're probably getting a raise annually every year, hopefully. Not saying you are, but hopefully, or you've paid a little more debt down and now you don't need as much income. What we're saying is you can go inside your portal in your 401k, and when you enroll, it'll say, would you like to auto enroll increase by a percentage? What that says, every year on this date, we are going to go from 5% to 6% to 7%. So you're automatically it's a built-in habit. You don't have to go in January and switch it. It's going to start taking more out of your paycheck.
And most likely, you won't even notice it.
Yes.
Right? Now, if you're someone maybe that budgets its every dollar every week looking like Bailey would notice it for sure. Bailey would notice it probably right away. But for the most time, for most people, if you went from 5% to 6% on a week, and if you're doing weekly contributions or whatever it is, that dollar amount's probably so small. It's probably a Starbucks coffee a couple of times a week of an increase. And versus you saying, hey, I'm at 6%, 3 years later, I want to go to 12, right? That's a big jump of like what your net income would probably be. And you'd notice it and be like, oh man, I don't want to do that. I'll just go up to 6% or 7% or whatever it is at that time, versus stair stepping a little bit every year.
Set the system up, right? If the system's set up, then you don't have to do it. Because how many people are like, oh, I'm only going to do this to get the match, or I'm going to do 3%, but I'll go back in a year and then I'll go and then they never do it.
We probably, as being on 401k plans, we're advisors on quite a few plans. We probably need to do a better job of advocating that, because we do talk about it, but I don't think we push it hard enough, and the tools are there to systematically do it. So it's probably something of like, we need to maybe take some more ownership on that and push that a little harder.
I agree. I love the ownership. And you know what? I hear this. I had a older client in the other day. She's a widow. She's like, I just wish I would have done sooner. It's like, we
hear that a lot.
I got to ask this on a podcast the other day. Like, what would you tell? Well, today's the soonest day you could do it. So would you rather start today, or do you want, you know what I mean? So same thing with this, like auto escalate today. Go in today, hit that button. That's a great tip out of everything on the podcast. If you're doing your 401k and contributing, some things we want to make sure before we get in, what if you don't have 401k, but beneficiaries, we see this
a lot.
You just had a situation.
Yep.
You got to name a beneficiary on that 401k. It takes 2 seconds. Please do that, right? If you are at this point where you have
again, you're not doing it for you if something happens, right? You're doing it for one, if you have, whether it's children, a spouse, whatever, you have probably an obligation. You probably feel like, hey, they put them on, take the time, put it on, so life is easier, for them if something does happen to you. And then also it just takes one more thing off your plate that you don't have to worry about. Yeah. And it takes 30 seconds a lot of times to do.
Because if something happens and all that hard-earned money and you're planning, it just goes through probate. It's just gonna be messy.
Or it ends up in someone's hands that you didn't want it. Yep, that you didn't want it to go to. We see that happen, unfortunately, too many times.
Okay, so just want to add that. So also get online. I know it's easy for us and our generation to say it. I know there's a bunch. I've helped my family members.
That's a lot of time people's crutch to not making changes, like, oh, I don't have it available, or I have to fill a form out. And when very rarely in this day and age, to almost all the record keepers out there, they have the ability for you to go in online and get all access to all the plan documents, all the rules of the plan, change your beneficiaries,
change your address,
for all that stuff. So we get that. And that's where a lot of times people say, well, I struggle with technology and I didn't look at it for 10 years. I'm like, well, that is not a great answer.
No, we really want you to advocate. We talk about, you have to advocate for yourself. Having a login is so simple and you can do everything on there. So we really want you, even if you're not tech savvy or you think someone's going to,
and we'll help you through it.
I'm going to tell you this. I want to say this too. If you're someone who's like, I just don't like my stuff on it's already on there because it's on our end as the advisor. So regardless if you set
your
it up,
employer has to put it on there.
So it's on the technology. There's no avoiding it. But yeah, because I just feel like once you have that login, that's where you're going to make the changes. If you're not,
there are record keepers that are 100% electronic now. So if you want to do something, you have to get online, and they do not do paper applications. They don't do beneficiary stuff. It has to be online. So unfortunately, if you're someone that's still kind of holding on to that, it's coming. You're getting to a point where we're starting to see places that are very large businesses that are requiring people to do it online.
And it's easy to enroll online.
Yes.
It's just so quick and
it's easier for us
like
to help
ordering
you
McDonald's. Too. It really is. It's like ordering it and customizing it. You're done. You know, who's the order for? But okay, so we got you online, you're enrolled, you know how much, if you're getting the match or not, you're advocating to your employer.
You have a beneficiary. But we obviously know it's different. Like back in the day, the boomers, they stayed where they worked. They were dedicated. People leave employment much more. So what do I do with my 401k if I leave? Now remember, this is your money. This is yours. The employer doesn't care what you do with it. They're too busy. You've left their employment, good or bad. It's your job to do something with it. Yeah, and I would say this is probably one of the main topics that we deal with on a regular basis with clients or different servicing needs or someone that's new to us. A lot of times there was some type of transition. They left employment. They have their old retirement plan. They're asking, what do I do with it? And in general rule of thumb, you can leave it. You can roll it to your new plan. You can roll it to an IRA. Or you can cash it out.
Please don't.
Yeah, please don't do the last one. But again, some of it's subject to your plan that you're leaving. Sometimes if you have a relatively low balance, there can be some force out features where you're automatically forced out. But a lot of times,
it'll force you into a cash system.
Yep. A lot of times, if you're at least above a $5,000 balance, this is majority of the time. Again, there's always caveats to everything. You can leave it in that old plan. There's nothing forcing you. As long as you're above, there's a minimum in your plan that if you leave employment, that it would automatically cash it out or send it to an IRA or something your name. But if you're above, in general, $5,000 as a balance, you're not required to move it. But in general terms, we do like to see, we're advocates for at least moving it to your new plan if you have one available, just purely for administration purposes.
Just for what I'm hearing as managing, I don't remember where my 401k was.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always the biggest advocate for, like, yes, you can leave it. It can stay invested. Obviously, you can't contribute to it, but there's also blackout phases. So if that company moves,
I was just going to say that. Here's one reason why you would do that is, or if you're just, say you move home addresses, you don't update it at the old plan. Yes. And then that old employer changes from record keeper being at principal. So principal was where your login used to be. And now they moved it to Empower, for example, and you didn't know that. Now you're like meeting with Bailey and you're like, I have this 401k and I used to get principal statements, but I called principal and the account's not there anymore. And then you have to figure out and go through that,
I've had it so many times where people are like, well, I don't know where it is. So that's why I'm like, if you leave employment, I want you to be in control of your financial life. Just move it to an IRA or move it to your new plan, because in too many circumstances, life happens so fast. You have a kid, you move, you change jobs, you forget. Like no one but us is memorizing all these record keeper names.
Very rarely if you have a 401k at your old work, 401k at your new work, very rarely is one plan that much better than the other.
We just want you to be in control of it.
Yeah, that's why we're always, if you know you're not moving into an IRA, move it to your new plan for sure.
And then it's consolidated. You're getting everything. It's just.
But there are times where, again, I think this is where a lot of the opportunity with what we do is, the customization of moving outside of the 401k.
That's a good point, because if you hear me out, if you roll it to the new 401k, which I'm not saying it might be the best situation for you, you can only invest in what the 401k is offering. But when you roll it to an IRA, you can invest in everything.
You can go far, much more deeper, into what your options are, different types of strategies. And again, sometimes you don't need that. We're not saying this is right for everyone, but we just want, again, we just want to
empower you to know your options.
Yep, completely.
And don't lose it, because we talk about that all the time. Lost 401ks. But I thought this was in 2024, Fidelity reported 537,000 people with 401k balances over 1 million. The average age was, do you know?
Well, you have it wrote down here for me.
Dang it, you weren't supposed to be looking. 59, and they stayed in the same plan for 26 years. So I want to add this. I know. I want to add this. they stay in the same plan. We're obviously talking about that generation. I don't care what plan you're in. What this is saying, if you would invest consistently in a 401k for 26 years, the power of it, right? That's really what we're honing in. It's like, we're talking about pre-tax, we're talking about Roth, we're talking about allocation, but really, I'm just putting that amount. That's what you win. That's wins. Right? Yes, that's how you're going to win in saving retirement. So if you have a 401k, please don't be afraid to ask your employer, what's my match? How do I get enrolled? Who's my advisor? And then everything we talked about, go through it. It takes 5 to 10 minutes at the most. And then, Cole, did I get this question? Well, my employer doesn't offer a 401k, or I'm self-employed, so I just didn't save, or what should I do to save? What would you tell someone?
Yeah, very situational. But then we really need to look at strategies, on an individual basis. So those individual IRAs, individual brokerage accounts, or Roth IRAs, you're really going to start looking at those options if you do have the discretionary income to allow you to save on your own. And this is going to require more discipline. People that don't have employer sponsored plans where it's like, hey, you can do it right through the payroll process, makes it very systematic. You need to be more disciplined, and you have to have a little more ambition on your own to educate yourself, what's available out there. And for, whether you're, if you're a business owner or whatever it might be, there's a lot of different plan options, but on the individual planning side, if you don't have a 401k, you really, a lot of times that's where we come in line, and you're going to do a lot of things that's more on our level of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So 401k, we're just situational, but they're basically what we're saying. If you don't have a 401k, don't panic. Obviously, if you have one, great, utilize it. But 2, if you do not have one, or if you're self-employed, there are options.
Put some pressure on your employer. Ask them, hey, are we going to get a retirement plan? That's a good, that's something that's like,
can we at least get a simple IRA?
Yep. There's definitely a lot of, and if there is our employers out there that are, small business people under 50 employees don't have something, and there's a lot of different options, not just the 401k plan, that are a little bit easier to administer, to get enrolled, and also provides a nice value for you, not only as the owner, but to your employees.
And you're really great at this with our 401ks. Cole's always talking to the business owner, like, let's advocate for this in your plan. Maybe we should do this, because it is retention. That's how you keep good employees, is like to have these vehicles. So if you are a business owner and you're like, I'm not sure where to start, that's where we also...
It's a commitment for anyone that's not an owner of a business but is in a 401k plan. It is a commitment for that employer to offer that plan. It's expensive just to administer, to start up. To run through payroll, the processes, all of it. There are a lot of steps of getting that in. So it is, if you're a employee that has one, be thankful, because not everyone does have one.
Yeah, and again, utilize it correctly. I think this is great, because this ties into, like you were saying, everyone's revamping, Christmas time's coming, we just want you to pay yourself first. Please don't underutilize this. Consistency is the key. It's always the thing. Okay, so I'm going to rapid fire question Cole on 401ks. Let's see how great he knows the answers.
Ooh, okay.
How often should I rebalance?
I'd say depending on age, let's say 50, or let's say 40 and below, semi-annually to annually is fine.
Okay.
If you're 50 and above, or 40 and above, I would say quarterly to semi-annually. I'd say I'd let it age dependent there.
Okay. I'm going to pretend to be someone. I'm going to call on you right now.
All right, let's go.
Cole, the market's down. Should I just stop contributing, and should I sell out, or should I move it to bonds? What should I do? I'm freaking out. The market's down, and I'm contributing my 401k, and my retirement funds are in it. What should I do?
Well, first, how old are you, miss?
42.
Yeah, if we put it in the context of timeline, right? And I always ask this. People always say I lost, $8,000, and I always will respond back like, no, you don't lose anything till you sell.
If everyone could remember that.
That you don't lose anything. Yes, it's down in paper value. Everything moves in paper value daily. You just don't see it. The retirement assets, you can see it. Let's put it in context of your timeline. If you have longer than 5, 10, 15, 20 years, be patient. History repeats itself. Keep contributing. It's the best time to contribute is when the market's down and volatile, because you're buying more at a cheaper value. Be patient, be calm. And then what I always say is, if you are super uncomfortable right now, when your account does rebound in value, whether it takes 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, you probably need to revisit your allocation.
Yes, but not now.
Not right now. Panic is not a great strategy.
And ride that emotional wave, right? It will work out for you. Okay, ready? Can I max out my 401k and my IRA?
Depends
We
on
talked about
income.
this.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. As long as you fall within the income barriers, in the rules, if you look up, hey, Roth IRA, income limitations, you look that up online. You find your modified adjusted gross income. You can do that math on your own, or ask your CPA or your financial advisor, hey, can I do both? And if you can, great, because that's awesome. It means you're saving probably a good chunk of your income.
Okay, Cole, I feel like I'm behind. I'm 40 plus years old. What should I do?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, start with the budget, right? Always there. I know that's speaking, music to Bailey's ears there, but start with the budget, and then let's set up an escalation plan of saving. Yeah. Hey, we're going to start here.
The more we can save now, we can catch up.
We're going to either snowball some debt down. We're going to start to really compound. We got to have some compounded savings.
Ooh, I get this one all the time. Should I stop contributing while I'm paying off this debt, or should I wait to contribute to the debt's gone? What should I put my money towards?
Yeah, I would say if it's very poor debt, what I would do, and again, we're speaking general terms, reduce your contribution down to make sure you're still getting the full match, right? So say you're at 10%, but you're like, hey, I only need to do 5 to get the full company match of 4. Let's reduce that down, take that extra income, but you need to be disciplined of like that extra income can't go to the lifestyle creep. It's got to go to the debt directly.
This is so behavioral too. Like you can't not contribute. And if you're, whatever way you're doing this, if you want to pause or do it really quick and then get back into it. It's behavior. This one's definitely behavior.
You need to be very disciplined in the strategy if you're going to do this.
And I would say retirement is not built on these big swings, big invest. It's consistency, small things. It's very boring. It's very plain Jane. Nobody of your friends says, hey, how much are you doing to your 401k? Are you doing it every month?
I increased 1% this year.
But I'm going to ask that.
Is that good, Peter?
But really, again, do not be afraid to ask questions about 401k. We have the same questions all the time, especially if you're young. And if you have a young kid and you're listening to this, say, hey, I listened to these 2 dorks on a podcast. Listen to why you should be doing your 401k. Your kid will thank you. You know what I mean? Or it's never too late to utilize it or revamp it, but get logged in and look at what you have available, because honestly, it makes such a big difference.
Don't wait.
I do want to say, just download the app.
Yeah.
Everyone's already got the app.
Everything's got an app for sure.
That was the one that was the big kicker. When I realized I didn't have to go on a computer to do it, it's like,
I got facial recognition.
It's right on my phone.
Yeah. And I will say this, if you want someone to review your 401k because it is overwhelming, that's what we do. We check allocations. We do rollovers. We say, how much should you be investing? We'll help you budget. But honestly, we do this every single day. We want you to feel great about it. If you need help, that's what people like us are here for, but utilize what you got. ESPN 30 for 30 broke. It's hard to go broke when you're making millions, but it happens every day. Go Cubs.
You've been listening to How to Money with Cole and Cole, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
For now, I'm Cole.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Cole.
And we'll see you on the greens.
4.
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.